What's going on, everyone? Cameron with Exodus Trail Cameras. Today Lucas and I are out here on a piece of public land that we're doing some scouting on, and it's early October, and in the back of my mind there's been this scrape that I've wanted to go check out all summer long, all season long, and bow season just opened up in here in Ohio last week, and we just made the trek out in here. There was a rain front. I wanted to come and check and see if these scrapes were back opened up, and that brought up a talking point that we wanted to talk to you about, and that is either organizing your trail camera sets in a way that you can go back and look where your pictures were good, and you can set cell cameras up on those spots this year to get that MRI. A lot of times deer are on an annual pattern. They're in the same areas at the same time year after year. If you're running standard SD card cameras on those locations the previous year, you get all that data and say, okay, October 23rd, 24th, 25th, I had a big buck hitting this certain scrape. This season, you go in there early October, hang a cell camera. As soon as that deer shows up, you know, okay, he's in the area. You can go ahead and capitalize on the previous year's information. This specific set, we're just set up a little bit east of some doe bedding, like right on the edge of doe bedding, so it's a perfect scrape that you'll actually target to hunt. It's not one of those scrapes that's on a field edge or a real long way from bedding. It's a primary scrape. Underneath this tree last fall, there was scrapes under every down overhanging limb. This year, this one's already opened up. We freshened it up ourselves a little bit, but we're anticipating the same deer using this area or this scrape that late October time frame. Last year, we had some really good bucks hitting this camera. So real quick, I just want to go over some of the cell camera settings that I'm using to get that MRI or most recent information. We have an Exodus render set up over here. We have it probably 8-9 feet in the air. We are on public ground, so we want to get them up in the air, get them out of the line of sight of humans and deer. Overlooking this scrape, we have the camera set on real-time uploads. We want that information as soon as it hits, because if we can capitalize on it, we want to get in there right away. We have it on a 4-shot burst. Overlooking this scrape, deer comes in, hits the scrape, moves on. We want to make sure we get as much information on that deer as possible. Obviously, you could run video mode. The Exodus render does transmit video, but the data costs are going to be pretty astronomical if you're sending big video files over the air to your phone. So we like to run a 4-shot burst, and that trigger delay is set to 15 seconds. It's not an area where deer are going to hang out for minutes and minutes and minutes, so you're not going to get a ton of photos, but we want as much intel on that deer as we can in a short amount of time. So if it's in the licking branch, moving around, pawing the ground up, we want those trigger events to get a really good look to determine if the deer is a shooter or not. Keeping in mind the predominant wind in this area is a southwest wind. We anticipate that deer movement being in that late October time frame. Again, we plan on setting up on the northeast side of this scrape, downwind of the J hook, as that deer will come in to scent check this scrape and then work that branch. We should have a perfect 25-30 yard shot. So real quick, we'll walk over to our access point, show you how we're gonna get in and out of here, hopefully without spooking deer, keeping in mind that over here is doe bedding and over here is our access point. All right, so right now I am sitting down in this creek bed, and this is how I plan on accessing this scrape to hunt it, with keeping in mind the southwest wind, which is blowing back over to the field where I plan on accessing from. And this kind of hillside here and the way the creek lines up will keep any deer from getting downwind of me. In my access, I'm not leaving any scent behind. I'm walking through standing water. It's really quiet. And as soon as I come up this bank, I'm gonna hang in a tree. So I'm not walking out over into the scrape. I'm not leaving my ground scent basically anywhere those deer are gonna be scent checking that scrape. So there's a tree right here that I have picked out. I marked it on my Onyx. As soon as I walk in here, I'm gonna walk out of here, use my tracker. That'll tell me the best way to get in and out of here, keeping in mind I am on public ground right now. You're dealing with other hunters. You're not the only one after these big bucks, so your access has to be on point. This creek bed offers perfect access. If you can find a situation like this, I highly suggest doing that. So like I said, I'll hop up off this creek bed, take one step, hang my sticks, and I'm hunting. I just want to talk about the camera set real quick. On public land, you have to keep in mind theft, obviously, and there are some things to keep in mind when you're hanging your cameras on public to keep them out of the sight of not only the deer that you're after, but the people as well. So we're one stick high plus my body height. So we're probably around 10 feet high. As a human's walking through here, obviously they're going to see the scrape and most likely look at the camera. But if they're just walking through scouting, say this scrape's not open, we have this camera hung here. Some of the things to keep in mind are using a tree that's bigger than the diameter of the camera. There's a couple smaller trees around that we could have hung the camera on, but the body of the camera will then stick out. Another thing to keep in mind, I didn't follow it that well this time, but it's using paracord to hang the camera instead of this strap. I'm sure from the video angle here, you can see this strap way more than you can see paracord. So if you can get away with it, just use paracord rather than using the strap that the camera comes with. That's much more visible, especially on the back side of the tree, rather than using paracord. Also, we have this camera locked with a Python lock. That's not something I do a lot either, but this is a high traffic area. There's actually another guy's tree stand in this little block of wood. So if he's in here checking the area out, if he's gonna have to work for this camera. So locking your camera with some type of lock will also keep the honest man honest. Obviously, if he wants to steal the camera, he's gonna steal the camera. But when you're hanging your cameras, keep them high in the air. Use a tree that is larger than the diameter of the camera. And if you can, use some type of paracord to minimize the footprint of that camera. The last thing I want to touch on is the power source. So we're in a sensitive area here. We're only 100 yards from doe bedding. We don't want to have to continuously come into this area and replace batteries in our cameras. This is a cellular product. They're hard on batteries. So we're running our SB18 solar panel. We can set this camera up on this solar panel with external power, facing south so it gets the most sunlight we possibly can get. And this camera will run all season long, no issues. So external power is a must when you're in sensitive areas on these cell cameras, because let's face it, the reason you run a cell camera is so you don't have to visit the area, you don't have to come back, we don't want to have to replace the battery, so external power is a must. As you can see here, we didn't bring our solar panel mount, but I just want to give you a couple pointers when you're hanging these solar panels. These connections have to be facing down. If it's facing up and you get rain, your ports are going to fill up with water and your solar panel is going to go bad. So if you have your mount, just make sure those ports are on the bottom. And also, real important tip here, make sure your cord is coming out of the out and into the camera. When you charge this, it comes with an AC/DC charger, and you have to charge it on the in port, but make sure you switch it over to the out before you have your camera running. If your batteries are going to die, you're going to say you have it on a solar panel, but you don't have it plugged in the right compartment. So keep that in mind.